Dungeons of Hinterberg is kind of an anomaly. I can read about the game through devlogs or watch gameplay trailers, but nothing really prepared me for what this was. On the surface, sure, it's an action RPG, but as you settle down in this gorgeous town resting in the Austrian Alps, you realize this is a game about human interaction. It highlights the importance of conquering challenging obstacles alone and handling more social interactions by relying on friends to get you through mental roadblocks. It becomes a game directed by the player, but the struggles depicted aren't set up for self-immersion, given the focus on the nuanced issues of the lead characters. Dungeons of Hinterberg introduces Luisa, a post-grad law student who has just arrived in Hinterberg to figure herself out. Strange dungeons have been appearing around this region, summoning monsters and introducing valuable resources, encouraging explorers to enter and reap the spoils. However, there is a more human element to these dungeons and their design. The entire town seems to resemble an amusement park, which takes away some of the weight of the dangers lurking within the dungeons. Everything is well maintained and nothing seems to be at stake, at least in the first week of in-game gameplay, but these elements begin to impact the overall experience. Sure, this is still an action RPG, but there's inspirations from games like Persona, where it's evident in the game's writing, day and night cycle, menus, and relationship progression. That said, there's a flow to this narrative that is shaped by your relationships and how you spend your time. As the game goes on, you'll better understand what role you want Louisa to play in this world. However, there is a central goal for her, which dips into figuring out what she actually wants to do. There's also the mystery of these dungeons and their existence. The narrative turns into what you want it to be, but all the choices impact your lead. Still, I was glad the team didn't go full self-insert on Luisa, and I'm even more happy to see that the team gave her an entire arc that rounds out her existence. Outside the narrative, Dungeons of Hinterberg becomes a game of discovery. From the opening, you're more or less free to choose how to spend your time and who to interact with. Nearly every time I spoke with another character or discovered a new area, I unlocked an optional quest. When you complete these, especially for the other characters, you unlock stat boosts that you will need for late game dungeons unless you want to fight powerful enemies at a significant disadvantage. These rewards encourage you to spend time on side quests and optional tasks that may shy away from the main goal of completing the dungeons, but they also give you access to needed skills and even secret items. Still, you don't have to spend your time with others, and you can just as easily find a place for Louisa to relax on her own, which also provides its own set of benefits. I feel some unique design elements add to the exploration and discovery of Dungeons of Hinterberg. For starters, although there is a menu map, I found myself navigating to the guides sprinkled around the maps, which act as fast travel points to get around. For some reason, I relied heavily on biome signage to find my way to dungeons. There are 4 biomes, each with different gimmicks and dungeons of varying difficulty. For example, the ice area features magic that allows you to snowboard across the environment and launch an ice beam. In contrast, the forest area has magic that utilizes wind to navigate the stages. It's a unique design choice that forces you to change your approach to environmental challenges and combat, given that magic is also a viable option against enemies. Once you enter a biome for the first time, you'll have to find your bearings by unlocking the magic in the area and then exploring it, which are each very large until you find a dungeon. Now, dungeons are a bit different in design when compared to biomes. They shift the game to a puzzle adventure as you utilize magic to get through most areas. There's some clever puzzle designs here, but I don't think that the developers are ever trying to stump the player. Branching paths offer reasons to return later to get unique items or face off against powerful enemies in some of the more significant levels. Dungeons are also home to some of the more challenging enemy fights. As you enter an area, enemies will spawn around you, requiring you to defeat them before moving on. There's a dodge and melee attack, but most of the heavy damage is caused by skills and magic. I will say that the combat takes some getting used to. It's a bit overwhelming how demanding it is, as multiple button presses are required to execute moves. Further, the dodge and melee attacks feel a bit slow, but I got used to it after a few hours. Defeat only puts you back to the beginning of the encounter, so you're free to take on the enemy waves without too much of a setback, even if you're underpowered. To assist even further with combat are the charms. These are equipable modifiers that utilize slots to equip. The more powerful charms require slots, but it's also possible to use materials that lower the number of slots that are required for each charm. Further, weapons and equipment can be found and upgraded, but this doesn't change Luisa's on-screen model. A good deal of customization is available to players, which grows as you unlock new skills and incorporate them into your battle strategy. Dungeons of Hinterberg is a gorgeous game with colorful environments that invite exploration across each biome. There's also the town of Hinterberg itself, which grows significantly throughout the game. Some areas of the city encourages you to chill and hang out with other characters, or just by yourself. You can also spend time knocking out optional missions during town exploration. At the end of the day, Luisa heads to her room, recounts everything that she did, and goes to bed. There's some social aspects to Luisa's stats that will affect gameplay after the first 6 hours or so, and this changes as you complete character quests and do things around town, allowing you to access unique dialogue choices and optional missions. Dungeons of Hinterberg may confuse players looking for a straight action RPG, but those who take their time will quickly pick up on the best moments of this experience. Like the option in the game where you can just relax, approaching this casually reveals its clever nuances and a narrative arc that can otherwise be skipped by those rushing to clear dungeons. The time mechanic isn't there to rush you though, but it also enhances late game moments as you become more involved in Hinterberg's daily life. There are some criticisms that I can make about the combat effectiveness or a narrative that won't speak to everyone. Still, this is a game that works and showcases all of the developers' inspirations and unique touches to deliver an adventure packed with discovery, imagination, and finding one's path. Noisy Pixel is giving Dungeons of Hinterberg an 8.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.